Good day, students at home. It's glad to have you with us again on this edition of School on Air, and I'm glad to welcome you to the economics class. In our last class, we discussed exceptional demand curves as well as change in quantity demanded. And under change in quantity demanded, we said it's a situation in which quantity demanded of a commodity changes as a result of a change in its price. We said that the only factor that is responsible for a change in quantity demanded is a change in the price of the commodity. And we also said that the change in quantity demanded is represented on a diagram by a movement along the same demand curve, and that the movement could be an upward movement or a downward movement, just as we have in the diagram at the background here. The movement can be upward, it could be downward. If it is upward, it indicates a decrease in quantity demanded, and if it is downward, it indicates an increase in quantity demanded. So now we're going to continue our discussion by looking at change in demand. What is change in demand? Change in demand is a situation in which the level of demand for a commodity changes though its price remains the same. Please take note of my choice of words. Change in demand is a situation in which the demand for a commodity changes though the price of the commodity does not change, or the price of the commodity remains the same. So we're talking about a situation in which the level of demand is changing and price is not changing. So one thing you must understand with change in demand is that the price of the commodity is never a factor responsible for a change in demand. So we say the price is not changing, that means price is not affected. So there must be some other factors other than the price of the commodity that are responsible for the changes that we experience in demand. And change in demand can be represented on a diagram by a shift of the demand curve. And when we talk about the shift of the demand curve, the shift could be to the right or to the left, just like we have in this diagram. This is the price of the commodity. The price is not changing. And if you look at the price, we have three levels of quantity: Q1, Q2, and Q3. Now, if we're assuming that this is the initial demand curve, there could be a shift to the right, there could be a shift to the left. The moment the demand curve shifts outward to the right, that indicates an increase in demand. Demand is increasing though the price of the commodity remains the same. And if the demand curve is shifting to the left, that indicates a decrease in demand. That is, demand has decreased though the price of the commodity remains the same. So this is how to represent change in demand in a diagram. So let's quickly look at the factors that are responsible for change in demand. If you observe, the first factor is changes in the prices of other commodities. Like I said a few minutes ago, that the price of the commodity in question is never a factor that brings about a change in demand. So what are the factors that will make the demand curve to shift to the left or to the right even when the price is the same? The first is changes in the prices of other commodities. And in our previous discussion, we try to highlight what a substitute is and what a complement is. I said that a complement is a commodity that is demanded together with another one. That is, buying one implies automatically buying the other. And I said that for a substitute is a commodity that serves as an alternative to another. Now, if the price of, let's take fish and beef. If the price of fish reduces, the quantity demanded of beef will reduce. I come again. If the price of fish reduces, quantity demanded of beef will reduce. How do I mean? Beef and fish are, as it were, alternatives to one another. If the price of fish reduces in the market, what that implies that people will buy more of fish. And if people buy more of fish, the reduction in the price of fish will encourage some people who used to buy beef to migrate to buying fish. That means that the reduction in the price of fish will ultimately lead to a decrease in the demand for beef. Now, the demand for beef is not decreasing because its price has increased. Its price is still what it used to be. But because of the decrease in the price of a substitute of beef, the demand for beef is reducing. So that is how changes in the price of other commodities could facilitate a change in demand. What other factor could bring about a change in demand? Changes in income. Whatever makes the income of a consumer to change would ultimately bring about a change in its level of demand. For instance, let's assume that somebody works in an organization and is paid 40,000 naira in a month. He applied and he got another job, and the new job he got is being offered 300,000 naira. That's a remarkable increase in his income. Obviously, with 300,000 naira, there are a lot of things that he will be able to afford that he could not afford before. That's one. Then number two, even some of the things that he used to buy before, he will be able to buy larger quantities of them now. For instance, if the fellow's budget on clothing material is just 4,000 naira in a month, when his income was 40,000, with an income of 300,000 naira, he can afford to spend 30,000 or more on clothing material every month. Now, why is his demand for clothing going to increase? Is it because clothing material have become cheaper? No. The reason why he's going to be expending more money on clothing, it's not because clothing has become cheaper, but because his income has increased. So because of the increase in income, his demand for clothing material is also going to increase. And we can also reverse it. If his income also reduces, his demand for various commodities that he used to buy before would also reduce, because he would not be able to afford as many quantities as he used to buy before, because income essentially is what places a limit on the quantities of commodities that consumers are able to afford. Then what else brings about change in demand? Changes in population. If the population of a country or a locality changes, either by increasing, the increase in population would ultimately generate an increase in demand. And the increase in demand is not because the commodity that the people used to buy has reduced in terms of its price, but it is people are buying more now because the population has increased. What else is can be responsible for change in demand? Changes in climatic factor. When the climatic factor changes, definitely it favors the consumption of more of some commodities and then less of some other. For instance, when it is rainy season, people buy more of umbrellas. The reason why people are buying more of umbrellas is not because the prices of umbrellas have gone down and then it become more affordable. Rather, they are buying because of the change in the climatic situation, which makes umbrella more relevant to what the people need. What else is responsible for change in demand? Changes in taste and preference. When taste and preference changes in favor of a particular commodity, people will buy more of it, even at the same price. And when taste and preference changes against a commodity, people will buy less of it, even at the same price. For instance, there was this time that this type of trousers, bootcut, was in vogue. It rained long time ago in the days of pop music legends some time back. But you know, in fashion keeps revolving. So bootcut came up, and then taste changed in its favor, and people began to buy and buy and buy and buy. However, after some time, taste changed against it, and people were not buying again, even at the same price at which they were buying before, because something more innovative as far as fashion is concerned is now in vogue. Another factor responsible for change in demand is change in future expectation. If people are expecting that something is going to happen. Oh, we're expecting that price is going to increase, and because of that, this is what we think is going to happen. So when there is expectation of changes in future expectation, it also affects the demand for a commodity. Having said that, let's quickly look at the types of demand. There are basically 4 types of demand. The first one is what we call derived demand. What's a derived demand? A commodity is said to have a derived demand if the commodity is demanded because of the need that it can help to meet. How do I mean? For instance, the demand for the 4 factors of production is said to be derived. As an entrepreneur, the reason why you are employing an accountant is not because you like his face or because of anything. It's because he has the professional skill that is required to help you manage your money. So it is the knowledge that the accountant has that you are actually paying for, but you cannot separate the knowledge from the man that has it. So demanding for an accountant is a derived demand. As a matter of fact, the demand for the 4 factors of production is derived. The reason why entrepreneurs engage labor to do one thing or the other for them in whatever capacity is not because they like the people, it's because of the need that the people will help them to meet. For instance, a school proprietor who engages competent people to work for him in one capacity or the other to teach different subject or the other. Now, that fellow, the reason why he's employing those competent and to man the classroom in different subjects is not because the proprietor likes them. It's basically because of the knowledge that they carry, and that knowledge is what is going to sell to ensure that the profit maximization objective of his own school is achieved. If you are buying land, you are not just buying land for anything, you are buying land for one specific purpose that it's going to meet. For instance, you are buying it either because you want to build a house, you want to build a shop, you want to build a block of flats, or you want to hold it as an investment so that its value can increase in future and then you can sell it at a profit. What is the other type of demand that we have? We have what we call complementary or joint demand. What do we mean by this? The demand for a commodity is said to be complementary or joint if 2 commodities are demanded together, such that the moment you buy commodity A, it's automatic you are buying commodity B. Otherwise, A becomes useless. So that's what we call joint or complementary demand. Once you buy one, you're going to buy the other. The moment you buy a car, it is automatic that you are going to buy fuel to put inside the car, because the car cannot be functional until you fuel it. The moment you buy a stove, it's automatic that you are going to buy kerosene inside of it, because the stove cannot function in the absence of kerosene. So that is what joint or complementary demand is. What other type of demand do we have? We have what we call competitive demand. Competitive demand basically has to do with the demand for commodities that are substitutes or alternatives. Substitute or alternative. That is, they both solve the same problem. So buying one, you can buy one instead of the other. Talking about vehicles, Honda and Toyota could be substitute to one another, then beef and fish, because both they are solving, as it were, the same problem. Honda cars and Toyota cars will solve the problem of mobility. Beef and fish, they provide protein for the body. Then what do we mean by the last type of demand? Is what we refer to as composite demand. The demand for a commodity is said to be composite when the commodity is demanded for several purposes. Not one, not two, not three, several. And as a result of this, it becomes difficult for anyone to be able to ascertain with an authoritative finality the purpose for which the commodity is being purchased. For instance, cassava has multiple uses. We can use cassava to make animal feeds. We can use cassava to make fufu. We can get gari. We can get cassava flour. We can make starch. We can even make cassava flour for baking from cassava. So as a result of the multi-purpose nature of cassava, if someone buys cassava, you cannot predict authoritatively the purpose for which the cassava is being purchased. So commodities that have multiple purposes, that serve multiple purposes, are referred to as having a composite demand. So in summary, today we have looked at what change in demand is. We said is a situation in which the demand for a commodity changes, though the price of the commodity does not change. And we have also looked at the factors that are responsible for change in demand. And then we also looked at the types of demand, talking about complementary demand, talking about derived demand, composite demand, and then competitive demand. So as we come to a close in this episode of School on Air, I'm leaving you with this assessment question. Number one, what is change in demand? And then number two, what are the factors responsible for change in demand? It's been glad having you with us again on this episode of School on Air. We look forward to seeing you in the next class. Do have a wonderful day. Stay blessed.